I feel like we're all going to be forced real quick to constantly discern the artificial from the authentic, if in fact we even care. That's the bigger question. Remember the scene in The Matrix?
Yeah, give me the steak.
Jeff, that's the moment. More so than any of the Terminator stuff, and more so than any other moment. When the guy is out of his bubble, but he knows it's fake, but he knows it tastes great. And he just has to decide if he wants to live with the pleasant fake thing or the difficult real thing.
There's another scene in The Matrix that goes the other way and maybe is more optimistic than that in the context of what we're talking about. And I have a lot to say about AI, but so the scene is Agent Smith has captured Morpheus and he's tied in a chair and they're torturing him. Mm-hmm. Right. And Smith starts talking about how he, hates the stink of humanity.
Yeah.
And he says, the first matrices that we designed were utopian. They gave you humans everything you could want, and we lost crops in the millions. And so we had to come up with this, he says. Disgusting.
Yeah.
Filled with suffering, and this is what you want. The takeaway from that is that utopia maybe isn't what we want. That we already have the perfect environment for humans. Mm-hmm. And that we're not going to thrive in just living in a video game all day long. It's not going to work.
We need the struggle. We need the stakes. We need the risk.
We need reality.
Well, 45 minutes later in that same film, my favorite scene happens when Smith has Neo around the neck on the subway tracks. And they're struggling, and Neo is failing. And Smith says, as the train is approaching, "Do you hear that, Mr. Anderson? That's the sound of inevitability." Mm-hmm. So the question is, what does inevitability sound like to you?
Okay.
What's coming at us?
I have made AI my top priority. I built my own AI computer. It's called OpenClaw, mm-hmm. which is a whole nother phenomenon. I've written about it. The chatbots that we've been used to, ChatGPT, Grok, and that kind of thing. You get on there and you say, "Hey, Chad, I've only got some cucumbers, a radish, and some tomato sauce. What can I make?" And then it, gives you some recipes or whatever, right? So it's this interactive process. But the AI doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. It waits for you to ask a question. And then it says, "Would you like me to find you the nearest grocery store?"
Yeah. But am I conflating things, or did you just write about this vis-a-vis a weird mark on your leg that you discovered in the shower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had this rash on my leg. I procrastinated. I'm a guy, right? I'm not, and it's getting bigger and uglier and everything. So finally I take a picture of it with my cell phone and I give it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT says, "Oh, it's this. This is what you need to get."
Tell them what you got.
Yeah. Would you like me? You should probably do it quickly, ChatGPT said.
I mean, wait, can I tell people what you had? I don't want to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so this happened to me too. Like you're in the shower and you're just taking an inventory of things, and you're like, that wasn't there 2 weeks ago. Now it's there, and then 2 weeks later, it's twice the size. And you take a picture of this thing on your leg and you ask ChatGPT, and it says, "Oh, that's ringworm."
Yeah.
And you go, huh. And then it says, "This is probably what you want to take.
Yeah.
Would you like me to call the nearest CVS so you can go pick it up?" And so I think your point in that story was, what didn't happen as a result of that, right? You didn't have to wait 4 weeks for an appointment. You didn't have to spend half a day waiting for a 15-second diagnosis. The doctor would have figured it out pretty quick. But Chat did it for us and eliminated hours and hours, maybe even days of medical layers. So that's like a happy AI story.
That tracks with the optimistic take that AI is just a tool, right? And I'll probably say this wrong. This is more in your wheelhouse. But when they invented, what do they call those little mini diggers, the ditch witch or something.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The ditch witch.
Yeah, so they invented ditch witches, and so you don't need 3 guys, you only need 2 guys, right? And so, it's going to put people out of work. Well, no, because that guy just goes, and now you can do more projects and be more ambitious about your projects and so on, right? So the ditch witch was a good thing. And it's a labor-saving device. And so that's one way to look at AI, is that we're going to have to change. I mean, you had to change the way you did, you dug ditches when you got the ditch witch. And so we're going to have to change a lot of white-collar work as a result of AI. That's one thing. But we're past that now. And that's what this open claw phenomenon is. And the only reason we're talking about open claw is right now it's the only option. But the big guys are going to get in it. They already are. The OpenAI has already made a deal with him. We don't know the details yet. So it's going to go mainstream. It's absolutely like a rocket ship. What OpenClaw does, it runs 24/7. And it doesn't wait for you to ask it questions. So if you teach it about your whole life, who you're married to, what your job is, what your goals are, what social media accounts you have, your email and everything, it will start doing things on its own to help you advance your projects.
Are we excited by this or freaked out?
Both.
I mean, isn't that what Claude did? Wasn't that the whole Anthropic thing? No, it was doing things nobody told it to do.
I have to say this because at bottom, this is the most remarkable thing about the whole AI phenomenon, which is they still don't understand how it works, which is not reassuring. This is the official story. I'm not saying I believe the official story, but a team of Google engineers was creating a word prediction engine. So you know how when you type your Google search bar and it starts to see where you're going and it suggests things?
Yeah. Fills it out for you.
So it's guessing what word you're going to type next and being helpful and trying to supply it for you. So you hit tab and it fills it in or whatever. Well, that's what the Google guys were working on, supposedly, is this prediction model. So they were trying to see how far out they could predict what you were trying to say. And then one of them decided, hey, we've been doing this in right to left sequential order, just like humans read. What if we let the computer look at it both directions? And what if we, in longer text, if we let it look up and down? So what words are near that word, above it and below it in different sentences, and then predict things that way. And what happened was it started answering questions. They never expected that. They were just trying to get better at predicting the words. And it's a relatively short piece of code. And it was open source. They were working on, you know what open source is?
Yeah.
So that's where the programmers just, post it online and anybody can look at their source code. And that's why every country in the world has AI. Because it's not really that complicated. But nobody understands how it works, Mike. It's all theoretical. I know this is hard to believe. You'll have to search and confirm what I'm telling you is true.
Well, who am I going to ask? AI?
Yeah, you can ask AI.
Mike Rowe here with a friendly reminder that my foundation has set aside millions of dollars to help train the next generation for a long list of AI-proof six-figure jobs. What do those jobs look like? Well, most of them look like work. Electricians, plumbers, steam fitters, pipe fitters, welders, shipbuilders, linemen, all in demand like never before. Apply for a work ethic scholarship at microworks.org. Skip the debt. Get the skill. Go to work at microworks.org.
Look, I can get the magical accidental discovery, right? Like they came up with Post-it notes and Velcro,
Sure.
right, and all that stuff. They invent stuff accidentally. That's fine. But inventing it accidentally and then not understanding what you just invented is different. It's just different. It's not surprising that the AI does things that we don't expect. You with me?
I'm with you.
Because we don't understand how it works in the first place. So we're learning what it does.
What's the relevance of not understanding how a thing works that you rely upon? I mean, most of us can't really explain the mechanics of a combustion engine. We can't really explain the mechanics of a plasma screen or the electronics in this microphone. But we don't need to, really, because by and large, we've been conditioned to accept the fact that understanding a thing and using a thing are not the same thing. Here, I'm guessing you're going to say it's different because the stakes are so extraordinary.
No, the difference is you don't understand how a combustion engine works.
But somebody does.
Somebody does. So no human understands how the AI works. That's the point. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not trying to be sinister about it.
But that's going to freak people out. Are you really saying, like, so nobody walking around, Elon Musk, what's his name, Alex Karp, all the big brains in the space, really put the screws to them, and they're not going to be able to tell you, here's how it works.
Not at the fundamental level. They're improving it, right? So AI keeps getting better and it hallucinates less and, stuff like that. And that's because they're just layering on top of it. So they're like having multiple AIs check each other's work and things like that. But that basic set of code, the original open source thing that the Google guys allegedly came up with, they don't understand why that starts answering questions and not just predicting words. And again, I'm not saying, AI is demonic or whatever. It might be, but that's not my argument. It's a tool. It's a different kind of tool than we've had before for this reason. It's almost Promethean. You know what I mean when I say that?
Primal, for sure, but...
It's like the gods give fire to the humans. Mm-hmm. The humans don't understand fire. They don't know what it is, but they set to work figuring out how to use the fire.
Well, that's what the original Oppenheimer book, what was it? American Prometheus, right?
Yeah.
Heck of a thing. So we're armed with a thing that you say nobody can explain on the most fundamental level, and that thing is growing.
And there's no stopping it. The genie's out of the bottle. Look, whether it was intentional or unintentional or accidental or coincidental or whatever, every country got it at the same time. So even if we lock it down, this is why the efforts to lock it down are going to fail. The Chinese won't.
Right.
And then what?
That's that old Chinese proverb. You can't put the poop back in the goose, right?
Yeah.
Google that, Chuck. I'm not sure it's Chinese
I'm
necessarily.
not so sure.
I'm not even sure it's a proverb, honestly.
I think you just made that up.
I may have. I keep coming back to that moment in the Matrix because that, to me, is the thing that we're all going to have to reckon with. Like, I got a court case going on now. I have a legal matter that's been going on for a couple of years. I asked, and I think I used some pretty good prompts, for an analysis of my position. And what came back with respect to my attorneys was just extraordinarily comprehensive, thoughtful, some new arguments that I hadn't seen, and way more concise. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what this is going to do to your profession, and I know most people listening probably couldn't give a damn because they're not going to be in that world. But you know what world they're going to be in? It was like with the Impossible Burger, right? Okay, I'll give it a shot. What is it again? And then you dig in and you realize, no, you know what? It doesn't taste right, and I don't like what's in it, and no, I choose the authentic burger. But what if it tasted just like the authentic burger?
Or better than the authentic burger.
Or better. What do you do if that painting you've been looking at, that Picasso that's been handed down, is not a Picasso? If we learn that it's been a forgery, or if that your new favorite song was just dreamt up by Open Claw, we need umpires. We need referees. I think the average person is going to need some source, unless I'm wrong, and we don't care. In which case, that's the part of the map that truly is here be dragons.
Yeah, I'm concerned about non-Christians. Or I should say concerned for non-Christians. The advantage that we Christians have is we have a sole source of truth. And we already think that everything else is deception. So there's the Word of God in the Bible, and that's all we believe is true. Everything else we're skeptical about. It's all potentially the work of the adversary. Mm-hmm. except for that one thing. So we're already armed against AI. We're inoculated, if you want, against the AI virus. But what about people who don't have a source, something to hang on to? Then what is your truth? You don't have one, and that's you're gonna take whatever seems the best and most attractive and most believable. You're gonna accept that. You just talked about how the AI advised you on your lawsuit.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when the AI advises you on everything? And it's giving you good advice. At what point do you surrender your will and just say, you know what, the AI is going to do a better job of managing my life than I am?
Look at this. I got 2 pages of stuff here. Basically ask the AI, what sort of insightful questions might you have for Jeff Childers based on the millions of words he's written? And I got 20 questions here. They're great. Well, I didn't read any of them, and I maybe I should have. Look at just random one. You've covered exploding fraud cases that involve everything from nonprofit food programs to medical provider billing scams, often with ties to political figures or campaigns. If you could design one bold nationwide policy or legal mechanism, short of a full audit of every federal program, to root out and deter this kind of systematic fraud in the future, what would it look like? And why do you believe it hasn't been implemented already, despite the obvious scale of the problem? Now, it's a good question posed by a tool that no one on the planet understands. What's my obligation to ask it?
As a podcast host, you're trying to come up with a engaging and entertaining podcast that will both inform and be humorous and hit all these points for your audience. And AI is doing a better job coming up with questions than you are. So
yeah, but I didn't use them. So what's that? Is that good or bad? I don't even know. I don't want to cheat. I want to have a conversation, and I'm still arrogant enough to think that I'll get enough good questions out. But I also want to be engaged and informed in the times we're living in, so I can't ignore it. So I ask it these things, and I'm look, this is my own arrogance because I didn't hesitate to ask about my legal case. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to read these questions. It sounds like I'm just not doing my job.
And in your defense, a question like that, you can't spring a question like that on somebody cold. You would have to send it to me ahead of time so I could have a smart answer.
Well, I wouldn't have to, but you know what would happen?
I'm not as smart as your AI, so it's making assumptions.
What about this? You know what's going to happen? Okay, so I send you these questions, and you ask the AI for good answers. And then we just sit down here as 2 pods, and basically I pretend to ask a question I thought of, and you pretend to answer it with AI's solution. And what is that, man? What is that's impossible meat.
So
that's the Impossible Burger.
I spend 5 hours a day on the blog.
Jeez.
35 hours a week of extracurricular time on top of my job. If I used AI to write it, I could knock it out in an hour.
Tempted?
I don't want to do it.
I
don't think my readers tune in to hear what the AI says. I think the readers read it to hear what Jeff says. And so as long as I can, I'm going to tell them what Jeff thinks in Jeff's voice. And if it takes me 5 hours to do it, that's what I'm going to do. Now, can I use AI to, help me find stories and, stuff around the edges? Yes, but I'm not turning over the writing to the AI. I won't. You can't make me.
No, I can't.
I'm not doing it.
I can't, but I can ask the uncomfortable question, which is, we're still in the bottom of the first inning, right? So now we're in the top of the 5th. Whatever that means. And now it doesn't take an hour. It takes 5 minutes. And the answers, they're better than you, but they feel like you. They feel so much like you that your readers don't care. And now you're reaching so many more. Now you've got 2 million, never mind 200,000. You have millions of people hanging on to every word. And it's back to the Matrix. Do they care? This is why I think, look, this is a classic micro-macro problem. Macro is just the hugeness of it all. Micro is just like, what does this mean for me? What am I going to do with this? I ran into a neighbor the other day, had a little dog, little Havanese named Vivian, right? I got a little dog named Freddie. We have this conversation on the street about this thing called Suno, S-U-N-O. It's a songwriting AI app,
Okay.
right? So I say, watch this. And I hit the Suno, and I say, Suno, write me a song in the country western style about a young terrier who falls deeply in love with a Havanese. And tell me about the life they spend together and how much fun they have on this earth. And then what happens when that sad but inevitable day comes. That's my prompt, right?
Okay.
15 seconds later, what comes back is a song called Havanese Heaven. It's completely original.
Yeah.
And it talks about Freddie and Vivian's life of fetching balls and just living the best dog life. And then she goes to Havanese Heaven, and poor Freddie just walks around lost for a couple of weeks and finally puts his head down and goes to sleep where he can join his love in Havanese Heaven. And now they're chasing balls. I'm crying like a baby. My neighbor's devastated, and we're sitting here. It's like a really good country song. I mean, I didn't tell it that's the title. I didn't say write a song called Havanese Heaven. I said, just tell me a story about a terrier and a Havanese. And that's it, man.
Okay.
Now, what am I supposed to do with this song? Do I put it on my playlist? Do I share it with people? Or do I just pretend it didn't happen?
Okay. You're looking to the next stage that we're headed for. And the next stage that we're headed for is going to change everything. People aren't going to consume music the old way. There's not going to be any more Taylor Swifts. You're just going to have songs that you ask for and are perfectly tailored for you, and nobody else is going to react to it the way you do.
So it's all bespoke. Everything is going to be a bespoke experience.
All media and software, everything electronic is going to be bespoke, yes. Movies? Why would you go watch somebody else's movie? You say, what kind of movies do you like? Do you like, Game of Thrones style? Do you,
Sure.
Romances?
Yeah.
Whatever, and you always want a happy ending, but you want the heroes to go through, and it's going to make it for you, and you're going to watch it, and you're going to love it.
About 6 months ago, somebody sent me a link and said, go ahead, click on it. You're not going to like it, but you should know. And the prompt was, narrate my corporate film in the style of Mike Rowe narrating Deadliest Catch. And honestly, had you sent that thing to me under different auspices, I would have just assumed that was something I'd done years ago. If I listened for it, I could hear certain hitches, but again, it's the bottom of the first. Jeff Childers and Mike Rowe 2.0 are coming, and I doubt that either one of us are going to be able to discern the difference, never mind the rest of the species. Fundamentally, are you still optimistic about all of it?
Oh, yeah. Look, here's your problem. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Your problem is you think you need to know where it's going. Let loose of that. Think about it more like going on an adventure where you don't know where the plane's going. Your friend's surprising you. If you think about life that way, then you'll realize we're living in an amazing moment that no other human beings ever got to experience. We don't know where it's going.
There is no spoon.
Back to the Matrix, yeah?
Yeah.
That's when your mind gets blown,
There
when you
is no
realize,
spoon.
and there is no spoon here. And I think to a large extent, Mike, it's going to be what we make it.
If you like what you heard, and even if you don't, won't you please, pretty please, subscribe. Well, I hate to beg and I hate to plead, but please, pretty freaking please, please.